Yo, what's up, guys? Hello, hello. How we doing? How we doing? How we doing? We are gonna continue reading today. Hope everyone is doing well. Hope everyone is doing well. Good to see everyone once again. We are on, geez, what's this? Chapter 15? Chapter 15 at the moment. Don't mind Bowser, he's just watching the fire. Bowser's just tuning into the fire at the moment, so yeah, we'll carry on reading, but I hope everyone's doing well. Yeah, my phone is like flat as hell. I was gonna go live on TikTok, not anymore. But hello, guys. What's up, Archive and Journey with Brandy? Kia ora. Geez, that fire video is pretty loud, eh? Can you hear it? Waiting for other people to roll in right now. How are you guys, though? Followed you yesterday when you were offline and I saw you. Oh, chip, bro. Sorry about that, man. Thank you very much for the offline follow as well. What's up, T-Dog? How's your morning going? It was busy, my bro. I just got home. I legit just got home, had a shower, had a wash. And here we are. Since I'm late, I was like, you know what? We'll get that reading stream and everyone's been wanting. Sorry to hear that. Wait, what happened? Oh, no, it's busy morning just because adult things. I'm just getting ready for Anzac Day tomorrow. Yeah, it's Anzac Day tomorrow, so we're gonna be out early in the morning, pretty much. Yeah, that's what we're reading at the moment. That's how much we've read. So on chapter 15 at the moment, we're almost done, to be honest, from all the pages I can see. Whee! That's quite a few, bro. Sorry, here. Oh no, just the fire video. That's my iPad playing a fire video. That's why, yeah. See, the bells are watching the fire. Yeah, that was sent to me by Nintendo. I think it must be all good then if you can't hear it. Anzac, I think. Yeah, we're having it through the weekend. So we're gonna go and see my grandfather, who trained with the Maori battalion. But he went to like the Boer War and all of those, like Vietnam. And then when it came to World War 1 and 2, he was too old, so he couldn't go. Yeah, he ended up being too old, but then he trained some other people in Company B for World War 1 and 2. Morning, YouTube. What's up, Pratiks and Manboy? How you doing? How you doing? Yeah, so we're gonna go and see him tomorrow. Just go to his grave and then see our, grandparents and everything, and pretty much just be with the family and then get the stuff ready for dawn service. And yeah, that's pretty much the plans at the moment. I'm probably gonna stream dawn service again like I did before. So I'll try and do an IRL stream while we're there. What's up, Sir Meow? You get an IRL stream at dawn service going. Just so you can see it from our POV as well. Hey, you Siege. What's up, Sir Meow? Hello, hello, hello. How you doing on this fine evening? Not too bad, good sir. Not too bad at all. I'll turn the music down a smidgen. Yeah, time zones are weird. I understand, brother. It's like 10:25 here for me. So, we'll start soon, eh? Oh, it's 10 minutes into the stream. Okay, shall we start? Just keep in mind, Chad, my English is pretty. It's pretty. It's hard for me to read Tolkien's lingo sometimes. But we'll try and finish this book too. Maybe not today, but maybe next week. Cheer 1000 Sunny, hope the leveling has been going good too, my bro. Alright, here we go. Chapter 15, The Gathering of the Clouds. Now we will return to Bilbo and the dwarves. All night one of them had watched, but when morning came they had not heard or seen any sign of danger. But even more thickly the birds were gathering, their companies came flying from the south, and the crows that lived about the mountain were wailing and crying unceasingly above. Strange, something is happening, said Thorin. This time has gone from the autumn wanderings, and these are the birds that dwell always in the land. They are sterlings and flocks of finches, and far off the many carrion birds as if a battle were afoot. Suddenly, Bilbo pointed. There is that old thrush again, he cried. He seemed to have escaped when Smaug smashed the mountainside, but I don't suppose that snails have. Sure enough, the old thrush was there. And as Bilbo pointed, he flew towards them and perched on a stone nearby. Then he fluttered his wings and sang. Then he cocked his head on one side, as if he was listening, and again he sang, and again he listened. Yeah, this is a bit intense, eh, this music? Alright. I believe he is trying to tell you something, said Balin. But I can't follow the speech of such a bird. It is very quick and difficult. Can you make it out, Baggins? Not very well, said Bilbo. As a matter of fact, he could not make nothing of it at all. But the old fellow seemed very excited. I only wish he was a raven. Got me fighting a Dark Soul boss mid-story. Shit, bro, my man. So, Poots. I thought you did not like them. You seemed very shy of them when they came by this way before. Those were crows, and a nasty, suspicious-looking creature at that. And rude as well. You must have already ugly names and they were calling after us. But the ravens are different. There used to be great friendship between them and their people of Thor, sorry. And they often brought us secret news, and we were rewarded with such a bright, and they coveted the hide in their dwellings. Oh, that's right, they're messenger birds, eh, in the movie. They live many years, and their memories are long. They hand on their wisdom to their children. I knew many among the ravens of the rocks when I was a dwarf lad. This very height was once named Raven Hill, because there was a wise and famous pair, old Kark and his wife. Damn, Kark the Raven. He must have a big one, eh? They live there above the guard chamber, but I don't suppose that any of the ancient breeds linger here now. Yeah, but I reckon that raven had a big weenus. No sooner had he finished speaking, and the old thrush gave a loud caw, and immediately flew away. We may not understand him, but the old bird understands us, I am sure, said Balin. Keep watch now, and see what happens. Before long there was a fluttering of wings, and back came the thrush, and with him came a most decrepit old bird. He was getting blind. He could hardly fly, and at the top of his head was bald. Damn, a balding bird is crazy. He was an aged raven of great size. He alighted stiffly on the ground before them and slowly flapped his wings and bobbed towards Thorin. Wait, this fucking raven can talk, okay. Oh, Thorin, son of Thrain, and Balin, son of Fundin, he croaked, and Bilbo could understand what he said, for he used ordinary language and not bird speech. I am Roak, son of Kark. Oh, this big cock son. Kark is dead, but he is well known to you once. It is 100 years and 53 since I came out the egg, but I don't forget what my father told me. Now I am the chief of the great ravens of the mountain. We are few, but we remember still the king that was of old. Most of my people are abroad, for there are great tidings in the south. Some are tidings of joy to you, and some will not think so good. Behold, the birds are gathering back again to the mountain, and to Dale from the south and the east and the west, for the word's gone out that Smaug is dead. Dead! Dead! Shouted the dwarves. Dead! Then we have been in needless fear, and the treasure is ours. They are they sprang up again, but caper about for joy. Thank you very much for the 72 months, my bro. My golfing brethren, I hope you're well, looking after yourself, and the whānau too. Appreciate you, brother. Love you. What's up, Tree? What's up, JT? What's up, Battle Tanker? Big Chris with the 47-month arenas as well. Thank you very much for the Aroha as well, my bro. Behind JT. Hope you're doing good too, the White. The potato. Hope you're doing good, my bro. Okay, where were we? Shit. I kind of lost where we were on the thing. This is everything I needed. Oh, I'm glad you enjoyed. I'm glad you enjoyed. Because everyone's been wanting me to read books for ages, but I'm like, wait, what? Me? Okay. Okay. Here we go. Yes, dead, said Rock. The thrush may his feathers never fall. Saw him die, and we may trust his words. He saw him fall in battle with the men of Esgaroth in third night back from now, and at the rising of the moon. It was some time before Thorin could bring the dwarves to be silent and listen to the raven's news. At length, when he had told all the tale of the battle, he went on. So much joy, Thorin Oakenshield. You may go back to your halls in safety, and all the treasure is yours for the moment. But many are gathering. Hither beside the birds, the news of the death of the Guardian has already gone far and wide. And the legend of the wealth of Thrall has not lost its telling during many years. Many are eager for a share of the spoils. Already a host of elves is on its way, and carrion birds are with them, hoping for battle and slaughter. By the lake men murmur their sorrows are due to the dwarves, for they are homeless, and many have died. And Smaug has destroyed their town. They too think to find amends for your treasure, whether you are alive or dead. So, Social Club, I have an opportunity to do some voice acting too. I'm just wondering, waiting for the email to see like when we start. You're from Ireland. Hello, Truffles. Nice to meet you. Your own wisdom must decide your course, but 13 is a small remnant of the great folk of Durin that once dwelt here, and now are scattered far. If you will listen to my counsel, you will not trust the master of the lake men, but rather him that shot the dragon with his bow. What's his name? Bard, eh? Bard is he, of the race of Dale, and of the line of Gideon. He is a grim man, but true. But we would see peace once more among the dwarves and men and elves after the long desolation. But it may cost you a dear gold, I have spoken. Then Thorin burst forth in anger. Our thanks, Roak. Kark's son. Bro, I can't believe that's the raven's name, bro. It sounds like cock. What's up, gang? Do 50 Shades next, you dirty little bastard. Dirty, dirty man. You and your people shall not be forgotten, but none of our gold shall thieves take, or the violent carry off while we are alive. If you would earn our thanks still more, bring us news of any other that draw near. Also, I would beg of you, if any of you are still young and strong of wing, that you would send messengers to our kin in the mountains of the north, both west from here and east, and tell them our plight. But go especially to my cousin Dane of the Iron Hills. Dane Ironfoot! That's my man right there with the pig tusk beard. For he has many people well armed and dwells nearest to this place. Bid him hasten. I will not say if the counsel be good or bad, croaked Warrock, but I will do what I can be done. Then off he slowly flew. So he's bald, he's old, and he's blind. This raven's a goat. Back now to the mountain, said Thorin. We have little time to lose. And little food to use. And little food to use, cried Bilbo. Always practical on such points. In the case he felt that the adventure was, properly speaking, over with the death of the dragon, in which he was much mistaken, and he would have given most of his share of the profits for the peaceful winding up of these affairs. Back to the mountain, said the dwarfs, as if they had not heard him, so back he had to go with them. As you have heard some of the events already, you will see the dwarves still had some days before them. They explored the caverns once more and found, as they expected, the only front gate remained open. All of the gates, except, of course, the small secret door, had long ago been broken and blocked by Smaug, and no sign of them remained, so now they began to labour hard in fortifying the main entrance and making a new path that led from it. Tools were to be found in plenty of the miners and quarries and builders of old had used, and as such work the dwarves still very skilled. As they worked, the ravens brought them constant tidings. In this way they learned of the Elven King had turned aside. Yo, no name TMP. Thank you for the Optimus Prime, good sir. Thank you, kind sir. Thank you. To the lake, and they still had a breathing space better still. Here we go. They heard that 3 of their ponies had escaped, and 3 wandered wild far down the banks of the running river. Not far from the rest of their stores had been left. So while the others went off with their work, Philly and Killy were sent, guided by a raven, to find the ponies and bring back all they could. They were 4 days gone, and by the time they knew that they joined armies of the lake men and the elves were hurrying towards the mountain. But now their hopes were higher, for they had food for some weeks with care, chiefly cram, of course, and they were very tired of it, but cram is much better than nothing. And already the gate was blocked with a wall of squared stones laid dry, but very thick and high. Across the opening there were holes in the wall, through which they could see or shoot, but no entrance. They climbed in or out with ladders and hauled stuff up with ropes. For the issuing of the stream that had contrived a small low arch under the new wall. But near the entrance they had so altered the narrow bed that a wide pool stretched with mountain wall to the head of the fall, over which the stream went towards Dale. Approach to the gate was now only possible without swimming. Along a narrow ledge of the cliff to the right, as one looked towards the wall, the ponies had brought only to the head of the steps above the old bridge, and unloading them there had been them returned to their masters and sent back riderless to the south. No, those weren't, what's his name's horses, eh? They came at night when suddenly there were many lights as of the torches away south and Dale before them. They have come, called Marlin, and their camp is very great. They must have come into the valley under the cover of the dusk along both banks of the river. That night the dwarves slept little. The morning was still pale when they saw a company approaching. From behind their wall they watched them come up to the valley's head and climb slowly up. Before long they could see that both men of the lake, armed as if for war, and elvish bowmen were among them. And the length foremost of these climbed the tumbled rocks and appeared at the top of the falls. And very great was their surprise to see the pool before them, and the gate blocked with a wall of new hewn stone. As they stood pointing and speaking to another, Thorin hailed them. "Who are you?" He called in a very loud voice. "That come as if wait, what? That come as if a war of the gates of Thorin, son of Thrain. Damn. King under the mountain, and what do you desire?" But they answered nothing. Some turned swiftly back, and the others, after gazing for a while at the gate and its defences, soon followed them. The day the camp was moved to the east of the river, right between the arms of the mountains, the rocks echoed then with voices and with song, and they had not done for many a day. There was that sound, too, of the elven harps and the sweet music, and it echoed up towards them, and it seemed that the chill of the air was warmed, and they caught faintly fragrance of the woodland flowers, blossoming in spring. "Hello, Mr. V." Then Bilbo longed to escape from the dark fortress and to go down and join the mirth and feasting by the fires. Soon some of the younger dwarves were moved in their hearts too, and they muttered they wished they had fallen out otherwise, and they might welcome some folks as friends. Then Thorin scowled. That's right, this is when he goes into his Angus phase, eh? Then the dwarves themselves brought forth harps and instruments regained from the hoard and made music to soften his mood. But their song was not an elvish song. It was much like a song that had sung long before in Bilbo's little hobbit hole. Okay, I need to get some tissues real quick. My nose is blocked as hell. The man, the myth, the legend. Good to see you, brother. God bless from Canada. What's up, John Slick from Canada? How are you, my bro? One moment. Time to get a toilet roll instead. Make it easier. Let me just have a drink. Man, reading is pretty hard, eh? Thank you for the subs, guys. Whew. Okay. Here we go. I'll try and sing the song. Under the mountain dark and tall, the king has come unto his hall. His foe is dead, the worm of dread, and ever so is his foe shall fall. The sword is sharp, the spear is long, the arrow swift, the gate is strong. The heart is bold that looks of gold, the dwarfs no more shall suffer wrong. The dwarves of yore mighty spells, while hammers fell like ringing bells. In place of deep where the dark things sleep, in hollow halls beneath the fells. On silver necklace strung, the light of stars on crowns they hung, the dragon's fire from twisted wire, the melody of of harps they rang. Whew. The mountain throne once more is freed, O wandering folk, the summons heed. Come haste across the waste, the king of friend and kin has need. Now call we over the mountains cold. Come back unto the caverns old. Here at the gate the king waits. His hands are rich with gems and gold. The king is come unto his hall. Under the mountain dark and tall, the worm of dread is slain and dead, and ever so our foes shall fall. Damn, this a long song, eh? Much love from the US. What's up, Moogie? Enjoying the story and the singing. I'm trying to be a reader too, my bro. Everyone's like asked me to read for a long time, so I thought I'd better give it a go. Give it a go, my bro. And yeah, got my fire at the back there, so hopefully that adds 1+ cozy point to the stream. Okay, the song appeared to please Thorin, and he smiled again and grew merry, and he began reckoning the distance to the Iron Hills, and how long it would be before Dane could reach the Lonely Mountain. If he had set out as soon as the message reached him, but Bilbo's heart fell. Both at the song they talked, the sound wounded too warlike. Much too warlike. The next morning, early, a company of spearmen was seen crossing the river and marching up the valley. They bore with them the green banner of the Elven King and the blue banner of the lake, and advanced until they stood right before the wall at the gate. Again, Thorin hailed with his loud voice. Who are you that comes to the armed of war the gates of Thorin, son of Thrain, king under the mountain? This time he was answered. A tall man stood forward, dark of hair and grim of face, and he cried, Hail, Thorin! Why do you fence yourself like a robber in his hold? We are not yet foes, and we rejoice that you are alive. Beyond our hope we came expecting to find none living here. Yet now that we are met with this matter for a peril and a counsel. Who are you, and of what would you parley? I am Bard. By the hand was the dragon slain, and your treasure delivered. Is that not a matter that concerns you? Moreover, I am the right descent to the heir. I by right descent to the heir of Gideon of Dale. And in your hoard is mingled much of the wealth of his halls and towns, which of old Smaug stole. Is not that a matter of which we may speak? Further, in his last battle, Smaug destroyed the dwellings of men of Esgaroth, and I am yet to serve in it of the master. I would speak for him and ask whether you have no thought for sorrow and misery for his people. They aided you in your distress, and they recompass you in thus far brought ruin only, though doubtless undesigned. Hey, much love, Social Club. Cheer, my bro. How's it sounding too, chat? Let me know. Now, they were fair words and true, if proudly and grimly spoken, and Bilbo thought that Thorin would at once admit what justice was in them. He did not, of course, except that anyone would remember that it was he who discovered all by himself the dragon's weak spot, and that was just as well, for no one ever did. But also he did not reckon with the power the gold has upon which a dragon has long brooded, nor which dwarvish hearts long hours in the past days Thorin had spent in the treasury, and the lust of it was heavy on him. The dragon sickness, laddie! And I, for many other wonderful things that was lying there, about which were wounded will wound old memories of the labours and the sorrows of his race. There we go. You put your worst cause last in the chief's place, Thorin answered, reading us a story, and I mean that with the fiction. Cheer up, bro. To the treasure of my people no man has a claim, because Smaug, who stole it from us, also robbed him of life or home. The treasure was not his, that his evil deeds should be amended with or share. The price of the goods and assistance they received from the Lake Men were fairly pay in due time. But nothing will we give, not even a loaf's worth, under threat of force, while an armed host lies before our doors. We look on you as foes and thieves. Oh shit, this is still Thorin talking. My bad. It is in my mind that you are to ask what share of the inheritance you would have paid to our kindred, had you found the horde unguarded and us slain. A good question, replied Bard. But you are not dead, and we are not robbers. Moreover, the wealthy may have pity beyond right of the needy that befriended them when they were in want. And still my other claims remain answered. I will not parley, as I have said, with armed men at my gate, nor at all the people of the Elven King, whom I remember with small kindness. In this debate they have no place. They have no place. Begone now ere your arrows fly, and if you would speak with me again, first dismiss the elvish host to the woods where it belongs, and return laying down your arms before you approach this threshold. The Elven King is my friend, and he was secured the people of the lake in their need, though they had no claim but friendship on him, answered Bard. We will give you time to repent your words, gather your wisdom ere we return. Then he departed and went back to the camp. Ere many hours were past, the banner bearers returned, and the trumpeters stood forth and blew a blast. In the name of Esgaroth of the forest, in the name of Esgaroth of the forest, one cried, we speak unto Thorin Thane, son of Oakenshield, calling himself the king under the mountain, and we bid him consider well the claims that have been urged, or be declared our foe. And at least he shall deliver 1/12 portion of the treasure unto Bard, as the dragon slayer. And as the heir of Gideon, from the portion Bard will himself contribute to the aid of Esgaroth. But if Thorin would have the friendship and honour of the lands about, as his sires had of old, then he will give also somewhat of his own, from the comfort of men at the lake. Then Thorin seized the bow of horn and shot an arrow at the speaker. It smote into his shield and stuck there quivering. Since such is your answer, he called in return, I declare mountain besieged. You shall not depart from it until you call on your side for a truce and a parley. We will bear no weapons against you, but we leave you to your gold. You may eat that if you will. With that the messengers departed swiftly, and the dwarves were left to consider their case. So grim had Thorin become. So grim had Thorin become that even if they had wished, the others would not have dared to find fault with him. But indeed, most of them seemed to share his mind, except perhaps old Fat Bomber, Philippe and Killy and Bilbo, of course. Disapproved by the whole turn of affairs, he had by now had more than enough of the mountain, and being besieged inside it was not at all to his taste. Now this whole place still stinks of dragon, he grumbled to himself, and it makes me sick, and the cram is beginning simply to stick in my throat. Oh, Bilbo, eh? Chapter 16, A Thief in the Night, you doughty little halfling. Yeah, I really liked Oakenshield in the movie, eh? He was cool. I mean, dude had a tree shield. Of course I'm gonna like him. Alright. Now days passed slowly and wearily. Many of the dwarves spent their time piling and ordering the treasure, and now Thorin spoke of the Arkenstone of Thrain, and bade them eagerly to look for it in every corner. For the Arkenstone of my father, he said, it is worth more than a river of gold in itself, and to me it is beyond price. That stone of all the treasure I name that stone amongst all the treasure I name unto myself, and I will be avenged on anyone who finds it and withholds it. Bilbo heard the words, and he grew afraid, wondering what would happen if the stone was found. Wrapped in an old bundle of tattered ornaments that he used as a pillow, all the same he did not speak of it. For as the weariness of the days grew heavier, the beginnings of the plan has come unto his little head. Things had gone on like this for some time, when the ravens brought news that Dane and more than 500 dwarves, hurrying from the Iron Hills, were now within about 2 days' march of Dale, coming from the northeast, but they cannot reach the mountain unmarked, said Rock, and I fear lest there be battle in the valley. I do not call this council good. Then there are grim folk, they are not likely to overcome the host that besets you. And even if they did, what will you do? What will you gain? Winter and snow is hastening behind them. How shall you feed without the friendship and goodwill of the lands about you? The treasure is likely to be your death, though the dragon is no more. That's a bird, by the way. But Thorin was not moved. Winter and snow will not bite both men and elves, he said. And they may find the dwelling inside the waste grievous to bear. With my friends behind them and the winter upon them, there will perhaps be in softened moods to parley with. That night Bilbo made up his mind. The sky was black and moonless, and as soon as it was full dark, he went to a corner in the corner of an inner chamber just within the gate and drew from his bundle a rope. As the Arkenstone was wrapped in a rag, then he climbed to the top of the wall. Bomba was there, for he climbed. Bomba was there, for it was his turn to watch, and the dwarves kept only one watchman at a time. Bomba's the big one, eh? I like Bomba, he's pretty cool. It's mighty cold, said Bomba. I wish we could have the fire up here they have in their camps. It is warm enough inside, said Bilbo. I dare say, but I am bound here till midnight, grumbled the fat dwarf. A sorry business altogether. Now that I venture to disagree with Thorin, may his beard grow even longer. Yet he was ever a dwarf with a stiff neck. Not as stiff as my legs, said Bilbo. I am tired of stairs and stones. I would give a good deal for the feel of grass and on my toes. I would give a good deal to feel a strong drink in my throat, and for a soft bed after a good supper. I can't give you those while the siege is going on, but if it is long since I've watched, I will take your turn for you, if you like. There's no sleep in me tonight. You are a good fellow, Mr. Baggins, and I will take your offer kindly. If there should be anything to note, rouse me. First, mind you, I will lie in the inner chamber to the left, not far away. Hello from next door. Hello. How are you? As soon as Bomba had gone, Bilbo put on his ring, fastened his rope, slipped down over the wall, and was gone. He had about 5 hours before him. Bomba would sleep. He's pretty cool in the movies, old Bomba. And ever since the adventure in the forest, he was always trying to recapture the beautiful dreams he had then. and all the others were busy with Thorin, it was unlikely that any, even Philly and Kelly, would come out on the wait until their turn. On the wall, sorry. It was very dark in the road after a while when he left the newly made path and climbed down towards the lower course of the streams. It was strange to him. At least he came to the bend where he had to cross the water. If he was to make for the camp as he wished, the bed of the stream was there shallow but already broad, and fording into the dark was not easy for this little hobbit. He was nearly across with the mist when he missed his footing on a round stone and fell into the cold water with a splash. Damn! He had barely scrambled on the far bank, shivering and spluttering, when up came elves in the gloom with bright lanterns and searched for the cause of the noise. We're about to sneeze. Holy shite. That was no fish. One said, "There's a spy about. Hide your light. They will help him more than us. If it's that queer little creature that is said before the servant." Wait, what? I don't know if that's allowed to be said, but it's in the book, okay? Servant indeed, snorted Bilbo, and in the middle of his snort he sneezed loudly, and the elves immediately gathered towards the sound. "Let's have a light," he said. "I'm here if you want me." And he slipped off his ring and popped from behind a rock. They seized him quickly in spite of their surprise. "Who are you? Are you with the dwarves, hobbit?" "Thank you for the raid, my bro." "What are you doing? How did you get this far past our sentinels?" they asked, after another. "I am Bilbo Baggins," he answered, "company of Thorin. If you want to know, I know your king well by sight. Though perhaps he doesn't know me to look at, but Bard will remember me, and it is Bard I particularly want to see. Hello there, Hosey. How are you?" "Indeed," they said. "And what may be your business?" "Whatever it is, it's my own, my good elves. But if you wish ever to get back to your own woods from this cold, cheerless place," he answered, shivering. "Yo, thank you for the Optimus Prime, my bro. Damn, you just got here too. First time chatter, my bro." "Thank you. You will take me along quick to a fire where I can dry, and then you will let me speak to your chiefs as quick as it may be. I have only an hour or two to spare." "Thank you very much for the sub as well, brother. Damn. Appreciate it, my bro." This is how it came about that some 2 hours after his escape from the gate, Bilbo was sitting beside a warm fire in front of a large tent. And there sat two, gazing curiously at him, both the elven king and bard. A hobbit in elvish armor, partly wrapped in an old blanket, was something new to them. Really, you now," Bilbo was saying in his best business manner. "Things are impossible. Personally, I am tired of this whole affair. I wish I was back in the West in my own home where folks are more reasonable, but I have an interest in his matter of... I have an interest, but I have interest in this matter. 1/14 share." That's right, they all got a cut of the treasure they were supposedly going to get. Shit, I lost where I was. Hold on, chat. Uh-oh. I lost where I was on the book. Oh no, I found it. To be precise, according to the letter, which fortunately I believe I have kept, he drew from a letter which was... he drew from a pocket in his old jacket, which he still wore over his mail. Crumpled and much folded, Thorin's letter that had been put under the clock of his masterpiece in May. "A share in the profits, mind you," he went on. "I am aware of that. Personally, I am only too ready to consider all your claims carefully, and deduct what is right from the total before putting it on my claim. However, You do not know Thorin Oakenshield as well as I do now, I assure you. He is quite ready to sit on a heap of gold and starve, as long as you sit here. Well, let him, said Bud. Such a fool deserves to starve. Quiet, though, said Bilbo. I see your point of view. At the same time, winter is coming on fast. Before long, you will be having snow and whatnot, and supplies will be difficult even for elves, I imagine. Also, there will be other difficulties you have not heard of. Dane and the dwarves of the Iron Hills. We have a long time to go, but what he has he got to do with us. What does he have to do with us? That's all I'm going to say. Shit, asked the king. I thought as much, he said. He sees. I have some information for you. Dane, I may tell you, is now less than 2 days' march off, and has less than 500 grim dwarves with him. A good many of them have had experience in the turns page, dreadful dwarf and goblin wars, of which you have no doubt heard of. When they arrive, they may be in serious trouble. Do they have like a description of Dane from the book on Google? Yo, what up, Colton? Cheer my bro. Okay, why do you tell us this? Are you betraying your friends? Or are you threatening us? Asked Bard grimly. My dear Bard, speak Bilbo, don't be so hasty. I never met such suspicious folk. I am merely trying to avoid trouble for all concerned. Now I will make you an offer. Let us hear it, they said. You may see it, said he. It is this. And he drew forth the Arkenstone and threw away the wrapping. The elven king himself, whose eyes were used to seeing things of wonder and beauty, stood up in amazement. Even Bard gazed marveling at it in silence. It was as if a globe had been filled with moonlight and hung before them in a net woven of the glint of frosty tears. This is the Arkenstone of Thrain, said Bilbo, the heart of the mountain, and it is also the heart of Thorin. He values it above a river of gold. I give it to you. It will aid you in your bargaining. Then Bilbo, not without a shudder, not without a glance or longing, handed the marvellous stone to Bard, and he held it in his hand as though dazed. But how is it yours to give? He asked at last with an effort. Oh well, said the hobbit uncomfortably, it isn't exactly, but, well, I'm willing to let it stand against all my claim. Don't know you, I may be a burglar, or so they say. Personally, I never really felt like one, but I'm an honest one. I hope, more or less. Anyway, I'm going back now, and the dwarves can do what they like to me. I hope you'll find it useful. Bro, he's like chill, is he? The elven king looked at Bilbo with a new wonder. Bilbo Baggins, he said. You're more worthy to wear the armour of the elven prince than many that have looked more calmly in it. But I wonder if Thorin Oakenshield will see it so. I have more knowledge of dwarves in general than you have, perhaps. I advise you to remain with us, and here you shall be honoured and thrice welcome. How are you, Ivan? Thank you very much, I am sure, said Bilbo with a bow, but I don't think I ought to leave my friends like this. After all we have gone through together, as I promised to wake old Bombay at midnight. Really, I must be going, and quickly. Yo, what up, Ivan, over on the YouTube as well? Nothing they could say would stop him, so an escort was provided for him. As he went, both the king and Bard saluted him with honour. As they passed through the camp, an old man wrapped in dark cloak rose from the tent where he was sitting and came towards him. Well done, Mr. Baggins, he said, clapping Bilbo on the back. There was always more about you than anyone. There is always more about you than anyone expects. It was Gandalf. For the first time for many a day, Bilbo was delighted, but there was no time for all the questions. Then he immediately wished to ask. All in good time, said Gandalf. Oh my gosh. Things are drawing towards an end now. Unless I was mistaken, there is an unpleasant time just in front of you. But keep your heart up. You may come through it all right. There's news brewing, even the ravens have not heard. Good night. Puzzled but cheered, Bilbo hurried on. He was guided to a safe ford and set across dry, and then he said farewell to the elves, and climbed carefully back towards the gate. Great weariness began to come over him, but it was very well before midnight when he clambered up the rope again. It was still where he had left it. He untied it and hid it, and then he sat down on the wall and wondered anxiously what would happen next. At midnight he woke up Bomber, and then he rolled himself over into a corner, without listening to the old dwarf's thanks, which he had felt he had hardly earned. He was soon fast asleep, forgetting all the worries till the morning. As a matter of fact, he was dreaming of eggs and bacon. Does anyone else say eggs and bacon? I feel like we just say bacon and eggs, bro. It must be a Hobbit thing, eh? Must be a Hobbit thing. Chat, we've only got 2 chapters left. We've got 2 chapters left of The Hobbit. So let's finish it today, eh? Wait. Hold on. There's 2 chapters. Wait, it starts Fellowship of the Ring in this? Wait, so it starts Lord of the Rings in this Hobbit book. Hold on, I'm just checking how much chapters we have. Okay. Carrying on. Chapter 17? The Clouds Burst. Here we go. Next day. The trumpets rage early in the camp. Soon a single runner was seen hurrying along the narrow path. At a distance he stood and hailed them, asking whether Thorin would now listen to another embassy, since new tidings had come to hand and matters were changed. That will do, Dane, said Thorin when he heard. They will have got wind of us of his coming. I thought they would alter their mood. But them come few in number and weaponless, and I will hear. He called to the messenger. About midday the banners of the forest and the lake were seen to be borne forth again. A company of 20 was approaching. At the beginning of the narrow way they laid aside sword and spear, and came on towards the gate. Wondering, the dwarves saw that among them were both Bard and the Elven King, before whom an old man wrapped in cloak and hood bore a strong casket of iron-bound wood. Hail, Thorin, said Bard. Are you still of the same mind? My mind does not change with the rising and setting of the sun. Answered, my mind does not change with the rising and the setting of the few suns, answered Thorin. Morning from southern Japan. Hey, how's it in southern Japan? Sure, neat. I want to go there one day. And try and lift, what's that spear called? It's at the temple, eh? And the guy that used to wield it used to use it with one hand. I'd really like to try that one day. Yo, Sergeant, my bro. Good to see you, sir. Long time no see. Much love, my brother, much love. Hope you're looking after yourself and keeping healthy, my bro. We are finishing The Hobbit today. Hope you're doing good, my bro. Hey, brother. Good to see you, my bro. Good to see you. Once again, I hope you're looking after yourself as always. I know I said it before, but I'm going to say it again, my bro. Choo-choo, choo-choo. Bowser's looking after our fire behind me. Okay, carrying on. Did you come to ask me idle questions? Still, the elf host has not departed as I blade. Oh my days. Thank you very much for the 5-bomb, my bro. Thank you very much, my brother. If you did get one of those gifted subs, please, please, please give the bro a thank you. Thank you very much, brother. Appreciate the Aroha, my bro, genuinely. They went out to Suganja, Brawnstorm, Captain Bunsen, Bacon X60, and Seiko. Thank you very much, my bro. Till then you come in vain to bargain with me. Hey, W-Man Ganja. Is there anything from which you would yield any of your gold? Nothing that you or your friends have to offer. What of the Arkenstone of Thrain? Said he. At the same moment, the old man opened the casket and held aloft the jewel. The light leapt from his hands, bright and white as the morning. Then Thorin was stricken and dumb with amazement and confusion. No one spoke for a long while. Thorin at length broke the silence, and his voice was thick with wrath. That stone was my father's, and it is mine, he said. Why should I purchase my own? But wonder overcame him, and he added, But how can you buy the heirloom of my house, if there is a need to ask such a question of thieves? Oh my gosh. We are not thieves, Bard answered. Your own we will give back in return for our own. How came you by it? Shouted Thorin in gathering rage. I gave it to him, squeaked Bilbo, who was peering over the wall by now in dreadful fright. You! You! Cried Thorin, turning upon him and grasping him with his hands. You miserable hobbit! You undersized burglar! Hey, thank you, Seiko. He shouted at a loss for words, and he shook poor Bilbo like a rabbit. By the beard of Durin! I wish I had Gandalf here. Curse him for his choice of you. May his beard wither, and I will throw you to the rocks, he cried, and lifted Bilbo in his arms. Boom. Oh, mind you, he's a hobbit, eh? So I wouldn't put it past him. You could probably pick him up, eh? Stay, your wish is granted, said a voice. The old man with the casket threw aside his hood and cloak. Here is Gandalf, and none too soon, it seems. If you don't like my burger, please don't damage him. I'm trying to sound like him in the movie. Put him down and listen first to what he has to say. Moist. You all seem in league, said Thorin, dropping Bilbo on the top of the wall. Never again will I have dwellings with any wizards of his friends. What have you to say, you decent of rats? Dear me, said Bilbo. I am sure this is all very well and uncomfortable. You may remember saying that I might choose my own 14th share. Perhaps I took it too literal. I have been told that the dwarves are sometimes politer in word than in deed. The time was all the same when you seemed to think that I had been of some service. Decent descendant of rats indeed. Is this all the service of you and your family that I was promised, Thorin? Take it, that I have disposed of my share as I wished, and let go let go at that. I will, said Thorin grimly, and I will let you go to that, and may we never meet again. Then he turned and spoke over the wall. I am betrayed, he said. I was rightly guessed that I could not forbear to redeem the Arkenstone, the treasure of my house. Hey, there he is. Drop in one since it's been a while. Hey, cheers, my bro. Hope you've been looking after yourself, though, brother. If you don't mind, my bro, what you been up to? If you don't want to say, that is totally fine, too. Appreciate you, my bro. Where am I? Shit. He will get little enough, I doubt not. Take him, if you wish to live, and no friendship of mine goes with him. Get down now to your friends, he said to Bilbo, or I will throw you down. What about the gold and silver? Asked Bilbo. That shall follow after, as can be arranged. Said he. Get down. Until then we keep the stone, cried Bard. You are not making a very splendid figure as king under the mountain, but things may change yet. They may indeed, said Thorin, and already so strong with the bewilderment of the treasure upon him, he was pondering whether by the help of Dane he might not recapture the Arkenstone and withhold the share of the reward. Work and more work, I feel there, my bro. Bro, I've been doing bloody commissions on and offline, bro. It's I just need a break from carving sometimes. Okay. As Bilbo was swung down from the wall and departed with nothing for all his troubles, except the armor which Thorin had given him already. More than one of the dwarves in their hearts had felt shame and pity at his going. Farewell, he cried to them. We may meet again as friends. Be off, called Thorin. You have mail upon you, which was made by my folk, and is too good for you. It cannot be pierced by arrows, but if you do not hasten, I will sting your miserable feet, so be swift. That's pretty big brain, eh? Shoot a hobbit's foot, eh? You won't miss, surely. Not so hasty, said Bard. We will give you until tomorrow at noon we will return, and see you if you have brought with you the hoard that the portion that is to be against the stone. If this is done without deceit, then we will depart, and the elf host will go back to the forest. In the meanwhile, farewell. With that they went back to the camp, but Thorin sent messengers by Roark telling Dane of what had passed, and bidding him come with very speed. Okay, fucking Dane is taking his time, eh? Shit. Shit, we may not finish it today. I didn't realize how many pages there were. Goddamn. So hasty, said Bard. We will give you until tomorrow. Oh, wait, I've read that. The day passed in the night. The next day the wind shifted west, and the air was dark and gloomy. The morning was still and early when a cry was heard in the camp. Runners came and report that a host of dwarves had appeared round the eastern spur of the mountain, and was now hastening Dale. Dane had come. There he is. He had hurried on through the night, and so had come upon sooner than they expected. Each of his folk was clad in hauberk of steel mail and that was hung to their knees, and his legs were covered with hose of fine and flexible metal mesh, the secret of whose making was possessed by Dane's people. The dwarves are extremely strong with their height, but most of these were strong even for dwarves. In battle they wielded heavy two-handed mattocks, but each of them had also a short broadsword at his side, and a round shield slung at their backs. Their beards were forked and painted and trussed into their belts. Their capes were of iron, and they were shod with iron. and their faces were grim. Trumpets called men and elves to arms. Before long, the dwarves could be seen coming up the valley at a great pace. They halted between the river and the eastern spur, but a few held on their way, and crossing the river drew near the camp, and there they laid down their weapons and held up their hands in sign of peace. Bard went out to meet them, and with him went Bilbo. "We are sent from Dane, son of Nain," they said when questioned. "We are hasting to our kinsmen in the mountains, since we learn that the kingdom of old is renewed. But who are you that sits in the plain as foes before defended walls?" This, of course, in the polite and rather old-fashioned language of such occasions, meant simply, "You have no business here. We are going on. So make way, or we shall fight you." They meant to push on between the mountain and the loop of the river, for the narrow land there did not seem to be strongly guarded. Bard, of course, refused to allow the dwarves to go straight onto the mountain. He was determined to wait until the gold and silver had been bought out in exchange for the Arkenstone, for he did not believe that this would be done. If once the fortress was made with so large and warlike a company, they had brought with them a great store of supplies. For the dwarves can carry many heavy burdens, and nearly all of Dane's folk, in spite of their rapid march, bore huge packs of their where are we? Shit, I just lost it again. Huge packs on their backs in addition to their weapons. They would stand a siege for weeks by the time yet more dwarves might come, and yet more, for Thorin had many relatives. Also, they would be able to reopen the guard and guard some other gate, so that the besiegers would have to encircle the whole mountain, and for they had no sufficient numbers. These were in fact precisely their plans, for the raven messengers had been between Thorin and Dane, but for the moment the way was barred. So after angry words of the dwarf messengers retired muttering into their beards, Bard then sent messengers at once to the gate, but they found no gold or payment. Arrows came forth as soon as they were within the shot, and they hastened back to dismay. In the camp all was now astir, as if for battle, for the dwarves of Dane were advancing along the eastern bank. "Fools," laughed Bard, "to come this beneath the mountain, between the mountain arms. They do not understand war above ground. Whatever they may know of battle in the mines, there are many of our archers and spears now hidden in the rocks upon their right flanks. Dwarf mail may be good, but they will not be hard to put to it. Let us set on them from both sides before they fully rested." But the Elven king said, "Long will I tarry ere I begin this war for gold. The dwarves cannot pass us unless we will, or do anything that we cannot mark. Let us hope still for something. They bring reconciliation. Our advantage in numbers will be enough, if in the end it must come to an unhappy blows." But he reckoned with the dwarves. The knowledge that the Arkenstone was in the hands of the besiegers burned in their thoughts. Also they guessed the hesitation of Bard and his friends, and resolved to strike while they debated. Suddenly, without a signal, they sprang silently forward to attack. Bows twanged and arrows whistled, but was about to be joined. Still more suddenly a darkness came over with dreadful swiftness. A black cloud hurried over the sky. Winter thunder on the wild wind rolled roaring up and rumbled in the mountain, and lightning lit its peak. And beneath the thunder another blackness could be whirling forward, but it did not come with the wind. It came from the north, like a vast cloud of birds so dense that no light could be seen between their wings. "Halt!" cried Gandalf, who appeared suddenly. and stood alone, with arms uplifted between the advancing dwarves and their ranks awaiting them. "Halt!" he called in the voice like thunder, and his staff blazed forth with a flash like lightning. "Dread has come upon us all. Alas, it has come more swiftly than I guessed. The goblins are upon you. Bolg of the north is coming. O Dane, whose father you slew in the Moria, behold, the bats are above his army like a sea of locusts. They ride upon wolves and wargs and are in their train." Amazement and confusion fell upon them all. Even as Gandalf was beginning to speak, the darkness grew. The dwarves halted and gazed at the sky. The elves cried out many voices, "Come, Gandalf! There is yet time to counsel. Let Dane, son of Dane, come swiftly to us." So began the battle that none had expected, and it was called the Battle of the Five Armies, and it was very terrible. Upon the side were the goblins and the wild wolves, and upon the other side were the elves, men, and dwarves. This is how it fell out. Ever since the fall of the great goblin of the Misty Mountains, the hatred of their race for the dwarves had been rekindled to fury. Messengers had passed to and fro between all the cities, colonies, and strongholds, for they resolved now to win the dominion of the north. Tidings they had gathered in the secret ways, and all the mountains there was a forging and arming. Then they marched and gathered by the hill of the valley, going ever by the tunnel under dark, until around and beneath the great mountain Gundabad of the north, where was this capital, a vast host was assembled, ready to sweep down in time of storm unawares upon the south. Then they learned of the death of Smaug, and joy was in their hearts, and they hastened night after night through the mountains, and came thus at last, on the sudden, from the north, hard on the heels of Dane. Thank you for saying thank you, my bro. Not even the ravens knew of their coming until they came onto the broken lands which divided the lonely mountain from the hills behind. How much Gandalf knew cannot be said, but it is plain that he had not expected the sudden assault. This is the plan that he made in council with the Elven King and Bard, and with Dane from the Dwarf Lord now joined in. The goblins were the foes of all, and they were coming all other quarrels were forgotten. Their only hope was to lure the goblins into the valley between the arms of the mountain, and themselves to man the great spurs that struck south and east. Yet this would be perilous, and the goblins were in sufficient numbers to overrun the mountain itself, and so attack them also from behind and above. But there was no time to make any other plan or to summon any help. Soon the thunder passed rolling away to the southeast, but the bat cloud came flying lower over the shoulder of the mountain and whirled above them, shutting out the light, filling them with dread. "To the mountain," called Bard. "To the mountain! Let us take our place while there is time yet." On the southern spur and the lower slopes and the rocks at its feet, the elves were set. On the eastern spur were men and dwarves. But Bard and some of the nimblest of men elves climbed to the height of the eastern shoulder to gain a view of the north. Soon they could see the lands before the mountains, feet black with the hurrying multitude. Airy long vanguards swirled round in the spur's end and came rushing into Dale. These were the swiftest wolf riders, and already their cries and howls rent the air afar. A few brave men were strung before them to make a faint resistance, and many there fell before the rest drew back and fled to the other side. As Gandalf hoped, the goblin army had gathered behind the resisted vanguard and poured now into rage into the valley, driving wildly up between the arms of the mountain, seeking for the foe. Their banners were countless, black and red, and they came on like a tide of fury and disorder. It was a terrible battle, the most dreadful of all Bilbo's experiences, and the one which, at the time, he hated most. which is to say, it was one of the most proud. He was one of the most. It was one he was most proud of, and most fond of recalling long afterwards. Although he was quite unimportant in it, actually, I may say he put on his ring early in the business and vanished from sight. If not from all danger, a magic ring of that sort is not a complete protection in a goblin charge. Nor does it stop flying arrows and wild spears, but it does help in getting out of the way and preventing your head from being specifically chosen for a sweeping stroke by a goblin sword. The elves were the first to charge. Their hatred for the goblins is cold and bitter. Their spears and swords shone in a gloom with a gleam of chill flame. So deadly was the wrath of their hands that held them. As soon as the host of their enemies was dense in the valley, they sent against them a shower of arrows, and each flickered as it fled, as if they were stringing fire. Behold, the arrows of thousands of their spearmen leapt down. Okay. And charged the yells were deafening, the rocks were stained black with golden goblin blood, just as the goblins were recovering. From the onslaught and the elf charge was halted, there rose from across the valley a deep-throated war, with cries of Maori and Dane. Dane, the dwarves of the Iron Hills, plunged in, wielding their mattocks upon the other side, and beside them came the men of the lake with long swords. Panic came upon the goblins, and even as they turned in to meet the new attack, the elves charged them again with renewed numbers. Already many of the goblins were flying back towards the river to escape from the trap, and many of their own wolves were turning upon them and rending them dead and then wounded. Damn, they were hungry! Victory seemed at hand when a cry rang out the heights above. Goblins had scaled the mountain from the other side, and already many were on the slopes above the gate, and others were streaming down recklessly, heedless of those that had fell screaming from the cliff in the precipice. To attack the spurs from above, each of these could be reached by paths that ran down from the main mass of the mountain in the center, and the defenders had too few to bar the way for long. Victory was vanished from the hope. They had only stemmed the first onslaught from the black tide. Days drew on, the goblins gathered again in the valley. There a host of wargs came ravening. With them came the bodyguard of Bolg, goblins of huge size with scimitars of steel. Soon actual darkness was coming into the stormy sky, while still the great bats swirled at the head of and ears of elves and men, all fastened vampire-like on the stricken. Now Bard was fighting to defend the eastern spur, and yet giving slowly back. The elf lords were at a bay about their king upon the southern arm, near to the watch post on Raven Hill. Suddenly there was a great shout, and from the gate came a trumpet call that had been forgotten. They had forgotten Thorin. Part of the war moved by levers fell onwards with a crash into the pool out at the king under the mountain. Oh, they didn't do the whole dragon sickness thing in this one? And his companies followed him. Hood and cloak were gone, and there was shining armor and red light left from their eyes, and the gloom of a great dwarf gleamed like gold in a dying fire. Rocks were hurled towards from on high by the goblins above, but they held on, leapt down to the fall's foot, and rushed forward to the battle. Wolf and rider fell or fled before them. Thorin wielded his axe with mighty strokes, and nothing seemed to harm him. To me! To me! Elves and men, to me! "Oh, my kinfolks," he said, he cried, and his voice shook like a horn in the valley. Down, heedless of order, rushed all the dwarves of Dane to his help. Down, too, came many of the lake men, for Bard could not restrain them. And out upon the other side came many of the spearmen of the elves. Once again the goblins were stricken in the valley, and they were piled in perhaps till Dale was dark and hideous with their corpses. The wargs were scattered, and Thorin drove right against the bodyguard of Bolg, but he could not pierce their ranks. Already behind him, among the goblin dead, lay many men and many dwarfs, and many a fair elf that should have lived yet a long ageless merrily in the woods. And as the valley widened, his onset grew even slower. His numbers were too few, his flanks were unguarded, so the attackers were attacked, and they were forced into a great ring, facing every way, hemmed all about with goblins, wolves, and returning to assault. The bodyguard of Bolg came howling against them, and drove it upon their ranks like waves upon cliffs of sand. Their friends could not help them, for the assault from the mountain was renewed with redoubled force, and upon either side men and elves were being slowly beaten down. On all this Bilbo looked with misery. He had taken his stand on Ravenhill amongst the elves, partly because there was more chance of escape from the point, and partly with this more tookish part of his mind, because if he was going to be one of the last desperate stand, he preferred, on the whole, to defend the Elven King. Gandalf too, I may say, was there, sitting on the ground, as if in deep thought, preparing, I suppose, some last blast of magic before the end, that did not seem far off. It will not be long now, thought Bilbo, before the goblins win the gate, and we are all slaughtered or driven down as captured. Really, is it enough to make one weep? After all has gone through, I would rather old Smaug have been left with all the wretched treasure than these vile creatures should get it. And poor old Bomba and Balin and Philly and Killy, all at the risk, come to a bad end. And Bard too. Hello, Bacon. And the lake men and the merry elves, misery me. I heard songs of many battles. I had always understood the defeat may be glorious. It seemed very uncomfortable, not to say distressing. I wish I was well out of it. Fucking Bilbo. These clouds were torn by the wind, and red sunsets slashed the west. Seeing the sudden gleam in the gloom of, Bilbo looked round. He gave a great cry. He said he had seen a sight that had made his heart leap. The dark shape smelled yet majestic against the distant glow. The eagles! The eagles! He shouted. The eagles are coming! Bilbo's eyes were seldom wrong. The eagles were coming down the wind, line after line, in such a host, and must have gathered from all the eyries of the north. The eagles! The eagles! Bilbo cried, dancing and waving his arms. If the elves could not see him, they could hear him. Soon they took up the cry and echoed across the valley. Many wondering eyes looked up and thought, as yet nothing could be seen except from the southern shoulders of the mountain. The eagles! Cried Bilbo once more. But at the moment a stone hurtling from above smote heavily on his helm, and he fell with a crash, and he knew no more. Well, I got knocked out. He got knocked the fuck out. When Bilbo came to himself, he was literally by himself. He was lying on the flat stones of Ravenhill, and no one was near. A cloudless day, but cold, was broad above him. He was shaking and as chilled as stone. but his head burned with fire. Now I wonder what happened, he said to himself. At any rate, I may not yet one of the fallen heroes. But I suppose there's still time enough for that. He sat up painfully, looking into the valley. He could see no living goblins. After a while, as his head cleared a little, he thought he could see elves moving in the rocks below. He rubbed his eyes. Surely there was a camp still in the plain some distance off. And there was a coming and going about the gate. Dwarves seemed to be busy removing the wall, but all was deadly still. There was no call and no echo of a song. Sorrow seemed to be in the air. Victory after all, I suppose, he said, feeling his aching head. Well, it seems like a very gloomy business. Suddenly he was aware of a man climbing up and coming towards him. Hello there, he called with a shaky voice. Hello? What's the news? What voice is it that speaks among the stones? Said the man, halting and peering about him, not far from where Bilbo sat. The Bilbo remembered his ring. Well, I'm blessed, said he, then invisibility has its drawbacks after all. Otherwise, I suppose I might have spent a warm and comfortable night in bed. It's me, Bilbo Baggins, companion of Thorin, he cried, hurriedly taking off the ring. Shit, where was I? I missed it again. There. It is well that I found you, said the man, striding forward. You are needed, and we have looked for you for long. You have been numbered among the dead, who are many. If Gandalf the wizard had not said that your voice was last heard in this place. I have been sent to look for you here for a last time. Are you much hurt? A nasty knock on the head, I think, said Bilbo. But I have a helm and a hard skull. All the same, I feel sick, and my legs are like straws. A nasty knock to the head, I think, said Bilbo. I will carry you down the camp in the valley, said the man, and picked him up lightly. The man was swift and sure-footed. It was not long before Bilbo was set down before a tent in Dale, and there stood Gandalf, with his arm in a sling. Even the wizard had not escaped without a wound, and there were many unharmed in all the host. When Gandalf saw Bilbo, he was delighted. Baggins, he exclaimed. Well, I never. Alive after all, I am glad. I beg to wonder if even your luck would see you through. A terrible business, and it nearly was disastrous. But the news can wait. Come, he said more gravely. You are called for. And leading the hobbit, he took him within a tent. Hail, Thorin, he said as he entered. I have brought him. There indeed lay Thorin Oakenshield, wounded with many wounds, and his rent armor and notched axe were cast upon the floor. He looked up at Bilbo as Bilbo came beside him. Farewell, good thief, he said. I go now to the halls, waiting to sit beside my fathers, until the world is renewed. Since I leave now all the gold and silver, and go where it is of little worth. I wish to part in friendship from you, and I would like to take back my words and deeds at the gate. Wait, so how did he die? Did he not even fight big guy? What's up, Iklat? Bilbo, hang on, let me just blow my nose. So then, is Bolg even a thing on here? Or was he just added? Oh, sorry, chat. Yeah, was he just added? Bilbo knelt on one knee, filled with sorrow. Farewell, King Under the Mountain, he said. This is a bitter adventure if it must end so, and not a mountain of gold can amend it. Yet I am glad that I have shared in your perils. That has been more than any Baggins deserves. No, said Thorin. There is more in you of good than you know, child of the kindly West. Some courage and some wisdom blended in a measure. If more of us valued food and cheer and song above hoarded gold, it would be a merrier world. But sad or merry, I must leave it now. Farewell. Then Bilbo turned away, and he went by himself and sat alone, wrapped in a blanket. And whether you believe it or not, he wept until his eyes were red, and his voice was How do I say that? Hoas? Hoas. It's like ho and ass. He was a kind little soul. Indeed, it was long before he had the heart to make a joy again. All good, brother. Have a good day. Chit. A mercy it is, he said at last to himself. Then I woke up when I did. I wish Thorin were living. But I am glad that we are parted in kindness. You are a fool, Bilbo Baggins, and you made a great mess of business with the stone. And there was a battle in spite of all your efforts to buy a peace and quiet. But I suppose you can hardly be blamed for that. All that had happened after that, he was stunned. Bilbo learned later, but it gave him more sorrow than joy. Hey, Resurrected, how you doing, brother? And he was not weary of his adventure. He was aching in his bones for the homeward journey, that however was a little delayed, so in the meantime I will tell you something of the events. The eagles had long had suspicion of the goblins mustering from the watchfulness, the movements in the mountains could not be altogether hid. So they had gathered in great numbers under the great eagle of the misty mountains at the length-smelling battle. From afar they had come speeding down the gale in the nick of time. There was who dislodged the goblins from the mountain slopes, casting them over precipices or driving them down shrieking and bewildered amongst their foes. It was not long before they had freed the lonely mountain and the elves and men. Watched you a bit earlier, amazing reading, brother. Yeah, I just want to do new things too. Like, obviously, wood carving will always be a thing in my channel. But we can always do other things too. In my opinion, either side of the valley could not come at last to the help of the battle below. But even with the eagles, they were still outnumbered. Were they? In the last hour, Beorn himself had appeared. Oh, true, that's right. No one knew how from where he came alone, and in bear's shape, and he seemed to have grown almost a giant's size in his wrath. The roar of his voice was like drums and guns, and he tousled wolves and goblins from his path like straws and feathers. Hey, much love to you too, Resurrected. I appreciate you, man. He fell upon their rear and broke like a clap of thunder through the ring. The dwarves were making a stand still about their lords upon a low rounded hill. Then Beorn stood and lifted Thorin, who had fallen pierced with spears, and bore him out of the fray. Swiftly he returned, and his wrath was redoubled, so that nothing could withstand him. No weapon seemed to bite upon him. He scattered the bodyguards and pulled down Bolg himself, and crushed them. Then dismay fell upon the goblins, and they fled in all directions. But weariness left their enemies with the coming of new hope, and they pursued them closely and prevented most of them from escaping where they could. They drove many of them into the running river, and such as fled south or west they hunted into the marshes about the forest river. And there greater part of the last fugitives perished, while those that came hardly to the wood elves' realm were there slain, or drawn into die deep in the trickles of dark of Mirkwood. Songs have been said that 3 parts of the goblin warriors of the north perished on that day, and the mountains had peace for many years. Victory had been assured before the fall of night, but the pursuit was still on foot. When Bilbo returned to the camp, and not many were in the valley, save the more grievously wounded. "Where are the eagles?" he asked Gandalf that evening. He also lay wrapped up in many warm blankets. "Some are in the hunt," said the wizard, "but most have gone back to their heirs. They would not stay here and depart with the first light of the morning. Dane has crowned their chief with gold, and sworn friendship with them forever. And I am sorry. I mean, I should have likely to see them again," said Bilbo. "Perhaps I shall see them on the way home. I suppose I shall be going home soon." "As soon as you like," said the wizard. Actually, it was some days before Bilbo really set out. They buried Thorin deep beneath the mountain, and Bard laid the Arkenstone upon his breast. There let it lie till the mountain falls," he said. "May it bring good fortune to all his folks and dwell hereafter." Upon his tomb the elven king then laid Ukris, the elven sword that had been taken from Thorin in captivity. It is said as songs that gleamed even in the dark if foes approached. And the fortress of the dwarves could not be taken by surprise. There now Dane, son of Nain, took up his abode, and became the king under the mountain. In time, many of the dwarves gathered to his throne in the ancient halls. One of 12 companies of Thorin, 10 remained. Fili and Kili had fallen, defending him with shield and body, for he was the mother's eldest brother. The others remained with Dane, for Dane dealt his treasure well. There was, of course, no longer any questions dividing the hoard in such shares as had been planned. To Balin, Dwalin, Dorian, Norian, Orion, Oin, and Gloin, and Biffa and Boffa and Bomba, or to Bilbo. Yet a 14th share of all silver and gold, wrought and unwrought, was given up to Bard. Well, Dane said, "Yo, Shire, thank you very much for the Optimus Prime, my bro. You're gonna send me to sleep." Hey, if you gotta go to sleep, brother, go to sleep. It's all good. It's all good, man. From the treasure, Bard sent much of the gold to the master of the lake town, and his rewards his followers and friends freely. To the elven king he gave the emeralds of Gideon, such jewels as he most loved, which Dane had restored to him. To Bilbo he said, "This treasure is as much yours as it is mine. The old agreement cannot stand, since so many have claimed in its winnings and defense. Yet even though you are willing to lay aside all your claim, I should wish that the words of Thorin, of which he repented, should not prove true. That we should give you little. I would reward you the most richly of all. Very kind of you," said Bilbo, "but really, it is a relief to me. How on earth should I have to get all this treasure home without war and murder along the way?" "I don't know. And I don't know what I should have done with it when I got home. I'm sure it is much better in your hands." In the end, he would only take 2 small chests, one filled with silver, and the other with gold, such as one strong pony could carry. That will be quite as much as I can manage, said he. At last the time came for him to say goodbye to his friends. Farewell, Barlin, he said, and farewell, Dwalin, farewell, Dory, Nori Ori, Oin Gloin, Biffa Boffa, and Bumba. May your beards never grow thin. And turning towards the mountain, he added, farewell, Thorin, Oakenshield, Billy and Killy. May your memory never fade. Oh, fuck, that's heavy, eh? Oh my gosh, why didn't they add that in the movie? Then the dwarves bowed low before their gate, but words stuck in their throats, goodbye and good luck. Wherever you fare, said Balin at last. If you ever want to visit again, when our halls are made fair once more, then the feast shall indeed be splendid. If you're ever in passing by, said Bilbo, you don't wait to knock. Tea is at 4, but any of you are welcome at any time. Then he turned away. The elf host was on the march, and it was sadly listened, yet many were glad. For now the northern world would be merrier for many a long day. The dragon was dead, and the goblins overthrown, and their hearts looked forward upon the winter to spring of joy. Gandalf and Bilbo rode behind the Elven King, and beside them strode Beorn, my boy, once again in man's shape, and he laughed and sang in a loud voice upon the road. And I'm not going to sneeze again. Oh my gosh. So they went on until they drew near to the borders of Mirkwood. To the north of the place where the forest river ran out, they halted, for the wizard and Bilbo were not either the wood, even though the king bade them stay a while in his halls. They intended to go along the edge of the forest and rode its northern ends into the waste that lay between it and the beginning of the Grey Mountains. It was a long and cheerless road, but now that the goblins were crushed, it seemed safer to them than the dreadful pathways under the trees. Moreover, Beorn was going that way too. Farewell, O Elven King, said Gandalf. Merry be the greenwood while the world is yet young, and merry be all your folk. Farewell, Gandalf. Damn, everyone's leaving, said the king. May you ever appear where you are most needed and least expected. The oftener you appear in my halls, the better shall I be pleased. I beg of you, said Bilbo, stammering and standing on one foot to accept this gift. He brought out a necklace of silver and pearls that Dane had given him at their parting. In what way have I earned such a gift, O Hobbit? Said the king. Well, I thought, don't you know, said rather confused, that some little return should be made of yours, your hospitality. I mean, even a burglar has his feelings. I've drunk much of your wine and eaten much of your bread. I will take your gift, O Bilbo the Magnificent, said the king gravely, and I name you elf friend and blessed. May your shadow never grow less. Or stealing would be easy, too easy. Farewell. Then the elves turned towards the forest, and Bilbo started on his long road home. He had many hardships and adventures before he got back. The wild was still the wild, and there were many other turns page things in those days. Besides goblins. Sup, Nickachude? Jim, bro. But he was well guided and well guarded. I hope the bro Kifs is all good after the court case. I saw what was happening. The wizard was with him, and Beorn from much of the way, and he was never in great danger again. Anyway, by midwinter Gandalf and Bilbo had come all the way back. Along both edges of the forest were the doors of Beorn's house and there for a while they both stayed. The Yuletide was warm and merry there, and men came from far and wide to feast on Bayon's bidding. The goblins of the Misty Mountains were now few and terrified, and hidden in the deepest holes they could find. And the wogs had vanished from the woods, and the men went abroad without fear. Bayon indeed became a great chief afterwards in those regions, and ruled a wide land between the mountains and the wood. And it is said that for many generations the men of his line had the power of taking bears' shapes, and some were grim men and bad, but most were in their heart like Bayon, of less in size and strength in their day, and the last goblins were hunted from the Misty Mountains, and a new peace came upon the edge of the wilds. In the springs, and the fair one with mild weathers and bright sun, before Bilbo and Gandalf took their leave at last of Beorn, and though he longed for home, Bilbo left with regret, for the flowers of the gardens of Beorn were in springtime no less marvellous than in high summer. At least they came upon the long road and reached the very pass, where the goblins had captured them before. But they came to the high point at morning, and looking back they saw a white sun shining. Over the overstretched lands there behind lay Mirkwood, blue in the distance and darkly green in the nearer edge. Even in the spring, there far away was the lonely mountain on the edge of eyesight. On its highest peak now snow yet unmelted was gleaming pale. So comes now snow after fire, and even the dragons have their endings, said Bilbo. And he turned his back to his adventure. The Tookish part was getting very tired, and the Baggins was daily getting stronger. I wish now only to be in my own armchair, he said. Damn. Meteoric and ND. The last chapter, guys. Let's finish this book, eh? Far out. Bro, that part when he looks back at the mountain, eh, and says goodbye to Thorin, Philly, and Killy. Oh, bro, that's heavy. I wish they added that to the movie. How's our fire looking at the back there? Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. Thank you, Meteoric and ND. Thank you, my brother. Have a good night, bro. I just forgot to use my Prime. Oh, appreciate you, my bro. If you're going to sleep, have a good sleep, King. And I'll see you next time, eh? It was on May the 1st that the two came back at last to the brink of the valley of Rivendell, where stood the last or the first homely house. Again it was evening. Their ponies were tired, especially the one that carried the baggage. Can you imagine how comfy the Hobbit Hole and the Hill? I still haven't been there. I need to go there though, and I want to do the marathon in Hobbiton too. And they all felt in need of rest. As they rode down the step path, Bilbo heard the elves still singing in the trees, as if they had not stopped since he left. As soon as the riders came down into the lower glades of the wood, they burst into a song of much of the same kind as before. This is something like that. Oh my gosh, there's like songs in here. I'll try and sing it. The dragon is withered, his bones are now crumbled, his armor is shriveled, his splendor is humbled. The sword and shield be rusted, and throne and crown perish with strength that men trusted, and wealth that they cherish. Yet grass is still growing, and leaves are yet swinging, the white water flowing, and elves are still singing. Come tra-la-la-lally, come back to the valley. The stars are far and brighter than gems without measure. The moon is far and wider. The silver and treasure, the fire is more shiny. On hearth and the gloaming, the gold won by mining. So why go a roaming on Tralalali? Come back to the valley, oh where are you going? So late and returning, the river is flowing. The stars are all burning, oh with the soul living, so sad and so deary. Here elf and elf maiden now welcome the really as Tralalali. Come back to the valley. Okay. Elves. Yeah, elves. Then the elves of the valley came out and greeted them and led them across the water to the house of Elrond. There a warm welcome was made them, and there was a many eager ears that evening to hear the tale of the adventures. Yunsu official. Thank you very much for the raid, good sir. Having a bit of a reading stream today, and we are almost done with The Hobbit. And then we move into Lord of the Rings. Thank you very much for the raid, man. I hope you had a wonderful stream as well. Kia ora. Kia ora, kia ora, my bro. Gandalf it was who spoke, for Bilbo was fallen quiet and drowsy. Most of the tale he knew, for he had been in it, and had himself told much of it to the wizard on their homeward way. On their homeward way, or in the house of Bayon. Yo, thank you very much, Carmen, for the Optimus Prime. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Hope you had a good day. Hey, there he is. Yeah, I reading too. So yeah, we're pretty much almost done with The Hobbit, my bro. And we'll move into Lord of the Rings after that. Thank you for the raid too, brother. What were you up to today? But every now and again he would open one eye and listen, when a part of the story which he did not yet know came in. It was in a way that he learned where Gandalf had been to, for he overheard the words of the wizard to Elrond too. You're writing! Oh! What are you writing? A new book? Appeared that Gandalf had been to a great council of the White Wizard, masters of law and good magic, and that they had at last driven the necromancer from the dark hold in the south of Mirkwood. We were working on writing a novel. Oh, okay. And we were writing probably. Okay. Much love, man. That's cool. Ere long now, Gandalf was saying, the forest will grow somewhat more wholesome. The north will be freed from the horror for many long years, I hope, yet I wish here banished from this world. It would be well indeed, said Elrond, but I fear that will not come about in this age of the world, or for many after. When the tale of your journeys was told, there were other tales, and yet more tales. Tales of long ago, and tales of new things, and tales of no time at all. Till Bilbo's head fell forward on his chest, and he snored comfortably in the corner. He woke to find himself in a white bed, and the moon shining through an open window below, and many elves were singing loud and clear from the banks and streams. Wow, these elves are just merry-making, bro. A bunch of pussheads. Well, merry people, said Bilbo, looking out. What time by the moon is this? Your lullaby would waken a drunken goblin, yet I thank you. And your snores would waken a stone dragon, yet we thank you. They answered with laughter. It is drawing towards dawn, and you slept now since the night's beginning. Tomorrow perhaps you will be cured of weariness. A little sleep does not a great cure of the house of Elrond, said he. But I will take all the cure I can get. A second good night, fair friends. And with that he went back to bed and slept till late morning. Can't wait for the fellowship. Yeah, we'll probably start that Monday. Yeah, probably Monday. I'm going to try and do an IRL stream tomorrow. Or was it? Yeah, this weekend. Anyway. Weariness fell from him soon, and in that house, and he had many merry jest and dance. Early and late with the elves of the valley, yet even at the place could not long delay him now. And he thought always of his own home. After a week, therefore, he said farewell. Aye! Okay, how do I say that? Theo Byronson. Thank you very much for the 5-bomb, brother. Thank you very, very much, my bro. If you did get one of those, please give the bro a thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, my bro. Appreciate you. There he is. First time chatter as well. Hello. Thank you very much to those that are following, watching on YouTube and Kick as well. Thank you very much. Okay. It even that the place could not delay him now. Okay. And he thought always of his home. After a week, therefore, he said farewell to Elrond. And giving him such small gifts as he would accept, he rode away with Gandalf. Even as they left the valley, the sky darkened in the west before them, and wind and rain came up and met them. Merry as it may time, said Bilbo, as the rain beat into his face. But our back is 2 legends, and we are coming home. I suppose this is the first taste of it. There is a long road yet, said Gandalf. But it is the last road, said Bilbo. They came to the river that marked the very edge of the borderland of the wild, and to the ford beneath the step bank, which you may remember. The water was swollen both with the melting of snow and the approaches of the summer, and with that the day-long rain, but they crossed with some difficulty and pressed forward. As evening fell into the last stages of their journey, this was much as it had been before, except that the company was smaller and more silent. Also, this time there were no trolls. At each point of the road, Bilbo recalled the happenings and the wise words of a year ago. It seemed to him more like 10, so that, of course, he quickly noted the place where the ponies had fallen in the river, and they had turned aside from their nasty adventure with Tom and Bert and Bill. Oh, that's the trolls, eh? That's right, those big bastards. Thank you very much once again, they all, and for being a first-time chatter and doing that too, my bro. Thank you. And thank you, Brother Stephen, for saying thank you as well. What's up, Pearly? Hope you're having a nice day too. Not far from the road, they found the gold of the trolls, which they had buried, still hidden and untouched. I have enough to last me my time, said Bilbo. When they had dug it up, you had better take this, Gandalf. I dare say you can find a use for it. Indeed I can, said the wizard. But share and share alike you may find, you may have more needs than you expect. So they put the gold in bags and slung them on their ponies, who were not all pleased about it. After that they were slower, for the most of the time they walked. But the land was green, and there was so much grass through which the hobbit strolled along contentedly. He mopped his face with a red silk handkerchief. No, not a single one of his own had survived. He had borrowed this one from Elrond, but now June had brought summer, and the weather was bright and hot again. Hey, Resurrected! Yeah, bro, got gifted a sub, brother. As all things that come to an end, even this story, a day at last, when they were in sight of the country where Bilbo had been born and bred, where the shapes of the land and of the trees were all known to him, and his hands and toes. Coming to a rise, he could see his own hill in the distance, and he stopped suddenly and said, Roads go ever on, over rock and under trees, by caves where never sun has shone, by streams that never find the sea, over snow by winter sown, and through the merry flowers of June, over grass and over stone, under the mountains and the moon. Roads go ever on, under cloud and under star, yet feet that are wandering have gone. Turn at last to your home afar, eyes that fire sword have seen, and horror in the halls of stone. Look at last on meadows green and trees and hills that have been known. Gandalf looked at him. My dear Bilbo, he said, something is the matter with you. You are a hobbit that you are. And so they crossed the bridge and passed through by the mill river, and came right back to Bilbo's own door. Damn! Bless me, what's going on? He cried. There was a great commotion. All the people of all sorts, unrespectably, were thick round the door, and many were going in and out. Oh, that's right, they're Raxing his house, eh? Not even wiping their feet on the mat, Bilbo noticed with annoyance. If he was surprised, they were most surprised still. He had arrived back in the middle of an auction. There was a large notice in black and red hung on the gate, stating that in June the 22nd measures Grub and borrowers would sell by auction the effects of the late Bilbo Baggins. Esquire of Baggin, Underhill, Hobbiton, sale of commenced at 10 o'clock sharp. It was now nearly lunchtime, and most of the things had nearly been sold, for various prices for the next thing to nothing old song. Bilbo's cousin, the Saxonville Baggins, were in fact busy measuring his rooms to see if their own furniture would fit. And in short, Bilbo was presumed dead, and not everybody that said so was sorry to find the presumption wrong. The return of Bilbo Baggins created quite a disturbance both under the hill and over the hill and across the water. It was a great deal more than the 9 days' wonder that legal bother. Indeed, lasted for years. It was quite a long time before Mr. Bilbo Baggins was in fact admitted to be alive again. Hey, Casey! The people who had got especially good bargains at the sale took a deal of convincing, and in the end, to save time, Mr. Bilbo had to buy back quite a lot of his own furniture. Many of his silver spoons mysteriously disappeared and were never accounted for. Personally, he suspected that Saxonville Baggins, on their side, they never admitted and never returned Baggins was genuine, and they were not on friendly terms with Bilbo ever after. They really had wanted to live in his nice hobbit hole so very much. Indeed, Bilbo found that he had lost more than spoons. He had lost his reputation. It is true, therefore, forever he remained an elf friend. Love the cozy reading streams. Yeah, we're just finishing it up. He was in fact held by all the hobbits of the neighbourhood to a queer, except by his nephews and nieces on the Took side. But even they were not encouraged in their friendship by their elders. I am sorry to say he did not mind. He was quite content, and the sound of the kettle on his hearth was ever after even musical than it had been even in the quiet days before the unexpected party. His sword he hung over his mantelpiece. His coat of mail he arranged on a stand in the hall until lent into a museum. His gold and silver was largely spent in presents for both useful and extravagance, which to a certain extent accounts from the affection of his nephews and his nieces. His magic ring he kept a great secret from his chiefly used when unpleasant callers came. He took to writing poetry and visiting the elves, and though many shook their heads and touched their foreheads and said, "Poor old Baggins," And though few believed any of his tales, he remained very happy to the end of his days, and those were extraordinarily long. On autumn evenings, some of the years after Bilbo was sitting in the study writing his memoirs, he thought of calling them There and Back Again, A Hobbit's Holiday. When there was a ring at the door, it was Gandalf and a dwarf. And the dwarf was actually Balin. Come in, said Bilbo, and as soon as they were settled in their chairs by the fire, if Balin noticed that Mr. Baggins turns page, waistcoat was more expensive. My kids have been drawing in my book. Fuck's sake. And he had real gold buttons. Bilbo also noticed that Balin's beard was several inches longer, and his jewelled belt was of great magnificence. They fell to talking of their times together, and of course, Bilbo asked how things were going in the lands of the mountain. It seemed they were going really well. Bard had rebuilt the town of Dale, and men had gathered to him from Lake Town. In Dale, the men gathered to him from the lake, from the south and the west. All the valley have become tilled again and rich, and the desolation was now filled with birds and blossoms in the spring, and fruit and feasting in the autumn, and Lake Town was refounded and was more prosperous than ever, and much wealth went up and down the running river, and there was a friendship in those parts between the elves and dwarves and men. The old master had come to a bad end. Bard had given him much gold for the help of the lake people, but being of the kind that easily catches such disease, he fell under the dragon sickness and took most of the gold and fled with it, and died of starvation in the waste, deserted by the companies. The new master is wiser and kind, said Balin, and very popular, for of course he gets most of the credit for preserved prosperity. They are making songs which say that in his days the rivers run with gold. Then the prophecies of the old songs had turned out to be true, after a fashion, said Bilbo. Of course, said Gandalf. And why should not they prove true? Surely you do not believe the prophecies because you had a hand in bringing them about yourself. You don't really suppose, do you, that all your adventures escapes were managed by mere luck, just for your sole benefit? You are a very fine person, Mr. Baggins, and I am fond of you. But you are only quite a little fellow in the wide world, after all. Thank goodness, said Bilbo, laughing, and handed him the tobacco jar. GG. And that was The Hobbit by Tolkien. That was cool. My favorite part would have to be when he's leaving the mountain and he looks at the mountain and he's doing a mihi or just saying goodbye to Thorin and Philly and Killy. That's deep, bro. That's deep. It reminds me of something we do, like my own people, Maori. We kind of do something like that too. Like when we're leaving, we kind of turn back and just look to our mountain. Like in our traditional greetings we have, we always acknowledge our surroundings, and the mountain, our river, and then our ancestral meeting houses, kind of like that. So yeah, that kind of hit me a little bit. I was like, ooh, I felt that.